now, take a belly breath. Breathe in your belly and exhale. Pull your navel back to the spine. Inhale, big belly breath. Exhale, pull the navel back to the spine. Inhale, big belly breath. Pull the navel back to the spine. Beautiful, okay? Simple belly breathing changes the chemistry, changes the dynamics of the nervous system, moves you from fight or flight into creative genius. You gotta create and reinvent from belly breathing. Step number one. Rule number one, belly breathing, okay? And with the blades anchored, what we're doing is also anchoring the heart. And what we will do is build upon this in a way that allows you to have great access to the power of the universe working through your system. And if you want to reframe old beliefs and old patterns, if you'll position yourself the way that I'm describing in these moments, when you're doing any of that work, it will happen for you much more readily, much more sustainably, because you'll be referencing it from the truth of who you are versus this compensatory version of you that we were operating on from the moment that we landed and we splatted and we were trying to do the best that we could to please the outside people instead of really enlivening and awakening ourselves from this deep, powerful place. I have some good news for you. Reinventing you is unnatural. It is meant to be. It's actually something that has been happening for the whole of your life, whether you knew it or not. You've constantly been reinventing yourself, and the whole idea of making that easy and graceful and more abundant and flourishingly moving in your life as a wave of grace is our job here during this event to find ways for that to happen for you more easily, more readily, more continuously. And so I look forward to diving in with you. I have a few moments with you today, and I want to celebrate your magnificence with you. Sometimes we get caught in the idea that we are this five-sensory being that has to let go of problems, to find our issues, our blockages, and fix them, and get rid of them, and release them, and then turn around and do it again, and find my next blockage because I still haven't manifested what I want to manifest in my life, and then we find another blockage or another problem, and fix it or release it, and so on. And at the end of the day, what we've done is become good at finding problems and fixing them. What we haven't begun to do, what we haven't gotten good at, is actually generating the circuitry for creating the version of us that we would love to be. We haven't gotten good at absolutely choosing our life and allowing it to flow through us and into the world. And so we're going to change that. We're going to start to work with this in a different way. We're going to, instead of only being focused on addressing what the problems are that are in my way, we're also going to tap into a greater truth, a bigger version of reality that perhaps doesn't cross our minds on a regular daily basis. It doesn't cross our minds because we haven't been shown. No one has really put the pieces together for us as we were growing up and evolving and developing our identity and who it is that we think we are. And so I'm going to give you a bit of a tour of who you really are today in our first few moments together, and then we'll see where we need to go from there. What I would love for you to recognize first and foremost in a larger picture perspective than just a five-sensory individual who has to find new synapses happening in their brain in order to operate in a better way, to release old habits and patterns and limiting beliefs. All of that is valuable, and it is very true. All of that needs to happen. And there's another way that we can make that easier. We can make it easier to release those old patterns and habits and ways of being. We can make it easier to release an old identity if we can begin to establish a new identity, if we can begin to establish a bigger identity. One of the things that I've always shared with my patients is that if we can set a bigger context, the problem gets smaller. If we can set a bigger bird's eye view, look at whatever it is that we're working with in our lives, the problems begin to shrink into closer in proportion to what they actually are in our lives. And what we call problems are actually here to polish us and to refine us and to develop our skill of recognizing a greater version of who we are, of recognizing that we are here as something more than what meets the eye initially. And so in my life, I was raised in an environment where my father was a pioneer in energy medicine. So quantum science and energy medicine and how thoughts create things and our reality was our dinner table conversation as I was growing up. And so I was very acclimated and familiar, and I went to school, became a doctor, opened a clinic, and was working with my patients, and was recognizing that we were here working with the energy, the bioenergetic flow of the body. And as such, we could allow for healing to happen in the body faster than what science, medical science, was showing us was possible in terms of reducing inflammation or transforming the functionality of a joint in the extremity or in your spine or something along those lines. And as we were working with bioenergetics, we recognized that patients were coming into the clinic and reporting that they were healing in other areas of their lives, that it wasn't just physical, that their mental and emotional disposition was changing because of the energy flowing through their body more readily. And as that energy was flowing through their body more readily, they became less depressed. Their anxiety would go away. They would start to have an uplifted outlook in life. They began then to get along with their partner, their spouse, their children, or their boss at work. And everything began to unfold differently as a whole person, a whole being, not just a spine or a joint that was their reason for coming into the clinic in an orthopedic sort of manner. And so we began to recognize that there is this whole being that we have to address, this whole being that has to be part of what we're treating, what we're providing. And so when it comes to reinventing yourself, it's really you tapping in to the same system that we discovered was imperative if sustainable healing was ever to happen with someone. For sustainable healing to happen, we had to have a different mindset. We had to have a different perspective, a different perception of who we really are in the world. And as such, in order for us to reinvent ourselves, we have to tap into that same creativity. So it serves us, and we'll spend a few moments on it at some point in our talk today, about recognizing the relationship in the nervous system of being in fight or flight or being in creative healing, in ingenuity states of consciousness. And so it's important that we have this relationship going and this understanding. But I just want to take you on a little tour and show you a little bit about the magnitude of your being before we get started there, because what happens is when we have an understanding of who and what we are, what quantum science is showing us about our origin and the unified field of consciousness and how we determine impact on our own DNA. And epigenetics is showing us that we can turn on and turn off different telomeres inside of our DNA molecule, which determines whether we exhibit signs and symptoms of a genetically inherited condition or not. And we have an understanding, and science has certainly shown us, that our DNA also has an influence on our external environment. So here we are with the capacity, with our minds and our hearts and our internal environment to change our own expression in the world, our energetic vibrational frequency in the world. And that vibrational frequency actually has an impact on our external reality, on our physical reality. And so science is showing us all these incredibly exciting things about the power that we actually have to not only reinvent us, but reinvent the world that we're living in, that we are truly the master of our life experience. And so in the face of all of this science, I want to make sure that we don't get so far ahead of ourselves in the enthusiasm that we lose touch with how to actually have it happen for us, that we change, that we transform, that we awaken, that we integrate, that we heal, and that we truly come forward as the version of us that we would choose if there were no story to depend upon, or there was no history to try to circumvent, if there were no prejudice in our past that we've been dealing with. Then who would we be? who would you be right now if you hadn't had the difficulties and the challenges or the distortions that have gotten set up inside of your reality because of past experiences where you were shown that you were not enough, or you were told that you're too old, or you're too young, or you don't have enough of this or enough of that? What would happen if none of that had occurred? Who would you be? Who would you be? So when I look at you and your fabulous faces here inside of this event, it is inspiring for me to see what we can do when we start to connect the dots. And I know that you're sitting in the right place at the right time right now to be able to flourish inside of what science is showing us, especially when we take time to recognize that we are more than enough. We are completely equipped with all that is. We're not broken. There's nothing missing. There is nothing wrong. We are here to recognize that we are made of wholeness and always have been. And it's simply a matter of awareness of our reality. It isn't our reality. It's our awareness of our capacity to generate the reality that we would choose if we were empowered to do so. And the great news is we are empowered to do so. So I want to take you on just a little bit of a tour. What I want you to understand is that when we talk about the unified field of consciousness, we talk about the 0 point field, we talk about the cosmos in terms of the bigness of our being. We are, in fact, the cosmos. We are the energy itself that is pouring forward into physical form. And it's quite amazing when we stop to think about the impact that has. And so this is your baby picture. This is you at your beginnings, your origin. You come from nothing and you move forward into form and into shape and begin to move toward the physical reality. So what we understand about all physical matter is that it's compressed energy. So the chair that you're sitting in right now, the screen that you're watching, all of it is energy that is just compressed into physical form. And so if we unpack it, it's energy. And it goes all the way back to these kinds of states, these kinds of moments. This is not only what you're made of, it is you. You are the vastness that is this. You are infinitely capable of anything because there's nothing that you are not. You are made of the universe. And so, as such, we begin to compress and compress and compress toward physical form. And we begin to develop a polarization inside this unified field, as does the Earth. In fact, what you're looking at here is an electromagnetic schematic of what happens with the Earth and her polarized energy field. We too are polarizing into an energy field as we compress and compress and compress this unified field, making our way all the way to the physical dimension. So I want to take you on a little bit of a journey of how that works. So if you look at this image, what we see here is this amazing cosmos that is gathering and gathering and gathering and gathering and pouring itself into a funnel, into a channel, as it compresses and compresses and compresses and compresses. And as it compresses, it descends and descends and descends in its vibration until it hits the physical form of the Earth. And then that energy that is you hits the Earth, turns and rises up again. And it rises up through the body and circles out around here. So this is what we see. We see it cycling over and over. It's descending, hitting the Earth, rising up again, and it generates this toric field of flow. So your energy field is constantly moving. In fact, when it is moving, you are healing. When it is allowed to move as freely as it is intended to be moving, you are reinventing yourself all the time. Every millisecond, 11 billion bits of information pouring together in this form, in this systematic way of flowing. And it's constantly filled with new ideas and ingenuity. It's constantly filled with the energy, the creative essence of reinvention. So actually, reinventing you is happening whether you're participating in it or not. So the whole idea this weekend is to allow conscious, intentional participation in that reinvention so that you begin to realize that nature's on your side. The cosmic law is on your side. So it isn't that you're swimming upstream when you're trying to reinvent yourself. I would love for you to begin to start to envision this as, imagine that there's a funnel sticking out of the top of you, and it goes on to the unified field forever. And the power of the universe is what's pouring down into you as you, hitting the earth, rising up and rolling over and over and over, and churning itself, vesseling itself in a way that allows you to gather the wisdom of the cosmos. Literally every single energy that the universe is made of is comprising your physical form. Inside this turning over of this toric field is where and how the physical form of your physical body develops itself as the developing embryo in the womb. You're made of the universe. There's nothing that you are not. So may we translate that to, there's nothing I really need to be afraid of. There's nothing I really need to be concerned about. I am everything that is, and the power of the universe is literally pouring through me. So I'd love for you to now envision this. This funnel is pouring down, hitting the earth, rising up, cycling around, and it eventually rolls itself out in front of us, and it projects a movie out in front of us that we then walk through. So here we are, this funnel channel hit the earth, rises up, cycles around. It is pouring through me, and I'm walking through that movie all the time. I'm walking through the essence, the energy of the universe constantly. Now, what determines what I get to experience or not is determined by the circuitry that I'm allowing to have be flowing through me all the time or not. So if I've shut down some of that circuitry, or if I were raised in an environment where we never really got to tap into using our creativity, we never really got to think in those kinds of terms. We were just busy doing what we thought we had to do and trying to stay in the lines and show up as a good citizen and a good partner and a good parent and, just deliver in that way. Maybe not really thinking in terms of our creative capacity. That creative capacity is what allows us to reinvent ourselves all the time. Over and over and over and over and over again. Always, always, a new version of you is possible. And so if we continue to generate a version of ourselves that is repetitive over a period of years, what it means is we've been insisting on some subconscious level that we maintain that pattern forever, or that we maintain it year after year after year at least. And so we're here to shift that. We're here to allow that to be different for ourselves in this beautiful, beautiful way. So just to give you another angle on this, I'd love for you to realize that you are at the top of this funnel. That's the real you, and you are compressing yourself down into the physical dimension, and this body is a gateway. It's a doorway through which you project your reality out into it. Now, the significance of showing you this right now is that I would love for you to know that this kind of power is behind the dreams that you dream of. It's what's behind that intention that you would love to have the courage to set for yourself. This is what's behind the power of you to actually step into what you'd love to have the wherewithal to step into. Right time, right place, take a hold of your life and step into a world that you've not experienced before. And so if you can envision and allow and feel into the possibility of this kind of power moving through you, it makes it a little easier to say, thank you, no. That's just not for me. And to say, instead, I'm very interested in moving in this direction. For the first time in my life, I'm going to let that happen. And when I do, I feel the power of the universe pouring through me. So I have my graphic designer generate these images for you, because in all of the coursework that I'm teaching and the programs that I deliver, people always come back and say, those images have changed my life, because now I recognize and I realize what's really going on here. I'm not just this separate self right here trying to make it work. I'm the whole thing, and I'm coming into this dimension to have an experience of myself as a creator. If I'm coming here to have an experience of myself as the creative energy itself, then I'm more inclined to allow creativity to move through me. So if we were to step back for just a moment, back to those images that I was showing you of the cosmos at large, if we were to give that a quality, the energy of the cosmos, a quality, the energy of the cosmos and the unified field has the characteristic of creative energy. So everyone is creative, whether you think you are or not. You're made of creative energy. There's no way you cannot be creative. Okay? So we have to let go of any thoughts or ideas or images that we have of ourselves and allow this to flow. If we want it to flow in the way that it's designed to flow, then that's what has to happen in order for us to recognize that we are actually part of an amazing continuum that goes on forever. We come from forever, we go on forever. And what we're doing right here is having an experience of ourselves in this third dimension. We're here allowing these energies to fold over on themselves over and over again to the point that we can actually feel them. We can have the experience of ourselves in this way. And the truth of us is magnificent. There's nothing missing. There is nothing broken. There is nothing wrong. It is flourishing and flooding us with abundance constantly. So if we're not experiencing that abundance, we're squeezing it off somewhere right in this vicinity. We're squeezing it off by remaining contracted in ways that we don't need to be contracted, by allowing ourselves to be dispersed and splatted in ways that confuse us and weaken us and cause us to believe that we can't make a difference or a change in our lives in the ways that we would love to be having what they're having or doing what they're doing. And it just doesn't seem to be happening right here. Or we might also be caught up in something different where life is going pretty great. I'm manifesting quite beautifully and all sorts of things are happening in my life and I'm healing in all sorts of ways. But I find myself holding back because I don't want to outshine or I don't want to, take the center stage or take the spotlight in some way and take it away from someone else that I respect or regard or maybe I would perceive myself as not doing the right thing in a moment like that. So we have a question about how do I know when it's okay to push, or how do I know when it's time to pause, and how do I know that I have this balance of energy so that I can live this balanced and harmonious life that is filled with joy and creativity and collaboration and have the relationships and the friendships that I desire. And so what I also know is that our humanity has had to put their pedal to the metal, if you will, in order to pierce through the veil and create and to land and to become innovative in the ways that we have when we come through history and recognize how difficult it was for us only 300 short years ago and 200 short years ago and 100 short years ago, how we were operating and how we were living versus how we're living today. And what's rising for us right now is a real desire to have a different kind of balance to the energies. We're being drawn to a rise in a feminine energy. And that feminine energy doesn't mean weakness. It means support, and it means nurturing, and it means wholeness, and it means cultivating wisdom. Whereas prior to this, in previous years, like for millennia, we have been locked into that push, drive, make it happen, don't let anybody get in your way. And for some of us, that just didn't seem to be appealing. It didn't seem like the way to be living a life that was actually loving and kind and supportive and sustainable in sorts of ways. And so, of course, right on time, what's happening in our evolution is an opportunity for us to recognize in this folding over on itself, in this vesseling that happens in this toric field flow, which is what happens right here. Here, this beautiful continuum is passing through, and we're saying, wait a second, let me feel some of that. Let me have some of that as a life experience. Let me have that abundance and that ability to flourish and to know the truth of who I am and that everything's okay and that I'm not going to miss out and that I can do the right thing at the right time for me, and it's more than enough. It's more than what is required for these things to flow and to change and for me to heal and for me to literally come forward in a way that is more acclimated to the truth of who I am. So to do so, we have to bring a harmony between the masculine energies of assertion and overthinking and analyzing and predicting and projecting our energies and piercing through the densities and to now bring a harmony of, Okay, let's allow something else to also be equally valued here. Because when I do that, something changes. Something beautiful changes inside of me. And when that thing that changes, what happens is I begin to recognize that I am enough. I begin to recognize and feel and breathe in a manner that allows for the fluidity of life to be appreciated and experienced. And then creative genius can happen. It's at that time that I no longer am shutting down my ability to allow this creative essence to rise up through me and express out from me. And so we begin to take on another way of living, another way of being. We've pushed and we've competed and we've compared enough. If that were the answer, we would all be happy and blissful and sharing a delightful life together. We'd be celebrating each other's accomplishments constantly. Now, I've had the great honor and opportunity in my life to generate that very thing in my life. And my workplace and our team that works together and the friends and the colleagues that I collaborate with, there is an amazing, beautiful essence that is exactly that. It is supportive unconditionally. And I know a lot of people don't have that. And that's what I want for humanity to be able to experience. So what I want us to do is work a little bit with some of the things that we can do to ensure that that happens. So as this energy comes through the funnel and channels and hits the earth and rises up, it's supposed to rise up with the same kind of clarity and pristine presence that it descends, assuredness, without hesitation, that it descends to the earth. Spirituality would call that pure spirit. Science would call it the descending frequencies, the grounding energies. It hits the earth and we rise up as it, and we're supposed to rise up as pristinely as we descend. We're supposed to stand up and rise up and be that unified field that is the continuum that I was just showing you. But here's what happens with most of us. Instead of it descending and rising in its same perfection, instead it descends, we descend, and we hit the earth and we begin rising. But we have to go around certain areas that have not yet been turned on. We have to go around certain aspects of ourselves that have not yet been illuminated. They've not yet been activated or animated in some way. And so they sit dormantly. And so we develop habits and patterns and ways of being that get by, but we get through by moving around the obstacles in our system. In our own system. Now, each level of these ovals that you see on this image, each level is a level of consciousness. It's a part of you. It's a part of your wholeness. So referenced as energy centers, I like to honor the fact that they've been called chakras for thousands of years. And as such, we are representing aspects of our wholeness, parts of our consciousness that reside in these different vibrational frequencies of that one continuum. This one continuum is folding over on itself, and that is you. It's everything, missing nothing. However, if we've been stepping around the idea that we're enough, that we belong, maybe you were raised in an environment where there was an overbearing parent or a coach or someone that shut you down and had you believing that you weren't enough and that you had to earn your way in or figure out how to fit into someone else's reality. And so you just kind of go around that. And then maybe there was a compromise in your ability to generate loving, consistent relationships because of that. And so now we have another thing going on here. So we're dodging around. This dodging creates a wobble in the rising presence of who we are. And in that wobble, we create a distortion in the energy field. And that distortion causes this individual to look out through this distorted energy field and see a distorted reality. A reality where it appears that I'm not enough. See? I'm not enough. I knew it. And we see what we're looking for because we feel that something's wrong or something's missing or something's distorted in some way. So we're constantly looking out there to try to fix whatever it is that we're feeling. And what we want to recognize is that all we have to do is learn how to build circuitry through here. We have to carve a pathway, an energetic circuit, a pathway, a liquid crystalline circuitry pathway that was what you were built from in the developing embryo. We are first light. That continuum is light. It compresses into liquid light. It compresses then into liquid crystalline structure in our embryonic development. And then it compresses into the systems that we know as the respiratory system, the cardiovascular system, etc. The immune system, the nerve system, all of it is a byproduct of this development. So what I want to encourage us to do is to begin to work with the master system. The master system is the electromagnetic energy system that is you as this energy folding over on itself. And as we carve pathways for that electromagnetic energy to flow better, more harmoniously, in a greater established symmetry, then what happens is we give and receive, we perceive differently. We have a different set of messages that come then from those 11 billion bits of information that are bombarding us through this channel every day, every millisecond. We begin to receive and perceive more of it. And as a byproduct of this, we are actioning upon more information rather than just what we're arriving at with our logical linear mind. If we approach this from a harmonized version of masculine and feminine energies, we recognize that there's a brain in our gut, deep wisdom, and the little antennas on the surface of every cell that epigenetics is telling us, is what we're picking up on, the messages. We have to generate an environment that is loving, that is healing. We have to generate an environment where it is safe to create, because without it being safe to create, reinventing ourselves becomes very challenging, very difficult. And so we have to learn how to breathe love in the belly. We have to learn how to allow for an environment where healing can take place. And so we're going to speak for a few moments about that. But first I want you to see that what we're going to be doing is learning to connect straight through instead of having to play dodgeball around these, so that this rising, ascending version of us that is coming out into the world and expressing is doing so without hesitation, doing so without regard of a story, without the prejudice from the past, creating an inability for us to see and sense and feel who we might be without that story. And so this distorted version has got to go, all right? And so when we begin to work with it this way, there are ways to stabilize this energy. So I want to share that with you guys a little bit today. Now, some of you I know are familiar with the work. Some of you I'm meeting for the first time. It's wonderful to see your faces and to be here with you in this way. And I so look forward to being able to someday be in a live event with you. But for right now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to learn how to utilize these anchor points in your system. These anchor points are how we stabilize, even in a system that's used to wobbling because we've been dodging different circumstances and avoiding different ideas or hesitating on going for it in terms of transforming our lives or quitting the job or asking for the raise or asking the person to marry us or asking for the divorce. Whatever the case may be in your life that is a deeper version of your truth, it's time for that to be able to flow with ease and grace in your life. Okay, so these anchor points are a way that we can begin to land it, that we can begin to sense and feel. Now, the indigenous peoples around our world used to live more in their bodies than in their heads. And because of that, they could sense and feel and perceive these energies. And the moment that you begin the journey of learning to live in your body, you also will become enhanced in those ways. Some people say, well, I'm a stress cat, I don't like to be in my body. It hurts when I get in there, so I just stay in my head all the time and try to keep outrunning it. And I say, yeah, how's that working for you, right? We know it doesn't work. It works for a little while, and then it just doesn't. And so what I want you to understand is that you are the light. You are the universe. You are that expansive experience that the mind is constantly looking for. You don't have to leave your body in order to recognize who you are. In fact, in the deepest depths of your being, you are the same expansiveness that you are as that cosmic being way out there that we were referencing earlier. It's the same. It's just folded over on itself and compressed into a funnel and compressed into a channel, hitting the earth, rising up into this toric field flow. I'm loving that there's more research out there, more people are interested in the torus field and what's happening. I want you to have an understanding that it's alive and it's you. It's not an energy field that surrounds you, it's you. You built a body inside of the energy being that you are. You don't have a physical body that has an energy field emanating and radiating off of it only. That's not the whole picture. The big picture is you're the cosmos coming in and rolling through as this continuum, and your job is to stay on the self, is to stay on you, instead of projecting yourself out ahead of yourself all the time. The more you stay on the self, the more you will feel the beauty of this entire creation, this entire system that is set up for success. It is set up for abundance. It is set up for self-healing and rejuvenation. It is set up for reinvention, I assure you. And so I want, when somebody says to you, I hear you're reinventing yourself, I want you to say, naturally, yes, of course. And I would love it if the cosmic images that I've been showing you come to mind for you in those moments so that you recognize, and I'm not in it alone. As a matter of fact, it's pouring through me even now. My job is to remain open, to anchor myself inside the system, which is what I'm about to share with you, and to aim it at whatever I would like to aim it at. And a byproduct of that is reinventing, because I didn't go about creating the first version of myself with that kind of perspective in mind. So the efforts that I went to, the things that I did to muscle in and to create and to push and to make things happen in my life, they can only create a limited version of who I am, because my perception of reality was limited in those moments, all of those moments, all of those years. And so I'm here to awaken myself to a bigger version of who and what I really am. And I am the universe folding over on itself into a funnel, into a channel, hitting the earth. I've landed here. I am on the rise. And I rise up and I recycle and recycle and recycle. I'm constantly receiving more. I'm constantly grounding more. I'm constantly being stepped down for human consumption by Mother Earth. And I'm constantly rising in that alpha frequency to move up into this healer genius, this inventor, this creator that I am. That's my job. And this entire process is pouring through me. My job is to aim it, but I want to make sure that I'm utilizing the vehicle that I have invented properly. And I'd also like to share with you this goes back in ancient history. It goes back into ancient Egypt and ancient India, where the gods and goddesses and the deities that we learned about were all actually aspects of what I'm describing to you now. We've been trying to be shown this forever, but because we were perceiving ourselves as a separate self and studied things that happened long ago, not perceiving ourselves as the continuum that has always been and will always be, we never allowed ourselves to have the power and the energy and the essence of those deities that we've studied about, from Greek mythology to Hinduism and the gods and goddesses there, all the way to quantum science and what it is now showing us about the power that we have to take energy and turn it in to whatever we would choose. By perceiving ourselves in this bigger way, things begin to change. So let's take a look at how we find the power to actually have the universe work through this system that I have generated here in this physical body. So there are some anchor points, some ways of anchoring ourselves in the center of the system so that the center of the system can find stability even when it's used to this wobble and this distortion and this ungroundedness and a lack of integration. Okay, so one of the ones I'd love for you to do first is just roll your shoulders back, pull your blades together and drop them down your spine. Just drop them down your spine. Just make it be easy. Don't make it be hard and overwork this and over-try. Just shoulders back, down, boom. Okay? Beautiful. Now, take a belly breath. Breathe in your belly and exhale. Pull your navel back to the spine. Inhale, big belly breath. Exhale, pull the navel back to the spine. Inhale, big belly breath. Pull the navel back to the spine. Beautiful, okay? Simple belly breathing changes the chemistry, changes the dynamics of the nervous system, moves you from fight or flight into creative genius. You gotta create and reinvent from belly breathing. Step number one. Rule number one, belly breathing, okay? And with the blades anchored, what we're doing is also anchoring the heart. And what we will do is build upon this in a way that allows you to have great access to the power of the universe working through your system. And if you want to reframe old beliefs and old patterns, if you'll position yourself the way that I'm describing in these moments, when you're doing any of that work, it will happen for you much more readily, much more sustainably, because you'll be referencing it from the truth of who you are versus this compensatory version of you that we were operating on from the moment that we landed and we splatted and we were trying to do the best that we could to please the outside people instead of really enlivening and awakening ourselves from this deep, powerful place. Okay, so in that, blades are together down, belly breathing. Now, roll your eyes up. Now, then roll them down. And then roll them up. Okay, and then roll them down. Then roll them up. Okay, you can feel right behind the eyes, right? Okay, so just give me a hands up if you can feel that. Excellent. Okay, so you can feel a little something behind your eyes. That place is right inside the cave of Brahma, which is in the ventricular system where the pineal gland sits, and we have lots of ways of accessing and enhancing that function. But right there, and connecting that to your shoulder blades together and down, a line, an elevator shaft connecting those two. Now take a belly breath and draw that line from behind your eyes, through your throat, into your heart space, into the belly, as if you're drawing a breath down into the belly. Excellent. And now exhale down from the belly into the earth, just down through your legs. If you're sitting in the chair, down into the earth, just at least 2 feet into the earth. Maybe your mind will go all the way to the center of the earth, okay? And then you're going to breathe up from the center of the earth right up into your belly. Big belly breath. Just let it feel good and receive. Receive and perceive as if you're being nurtured and supported and constantly guided. All right, now roll the eyes up again. And now what we're going to do is exhale, pull the belly back to the spine. Come right up in front of where those shoulder blades are squeezed, right up through your throat, right behind your eyes where you can feel that. And then exhale, shoot the breath right out the top of your head. Now let's inhale from overhead, right behind the eyes, right into this heart space, right into the belly. And exhale right down into the earth. Now just relax everything. So I'm going to show you one more thing before we put it all together. All right, so there's another exercise, and it's this anchor point here. It's called Mula Bandha. It's an ancient practice from yoga and breath work and meditating in deep states of meditation, one's wanting to get into samadhi and these deep states of illumination that happen. There is a process called Mula Bandha, and it's like a Kegel exercise, ladies, if you're familiar with that. Gentlemen, you're about to learn what a Kegel exercise feels like. So it's sort of like if you were going to the bathroom and you had to stop the stream instantly, you would squeeze certain muscles to do so. When you squeeze those muscles to do so, to stop the stream, you're contracting the musculature that is in the area of this pelvic floor. It's in the pelvic floor, the perineal muscles. And so by contracting those muscles, we're anchoring ourselves. And so if ever you are in a story and you're caught up in your head, if you'll just contract Mula Bandha and take a belly breath, you will not be able to get a good drama going on. You won't be able to get a good upset happening. If you're addicted to upset, you might want to proceed with caution because it literally grounds you and integrates you just by squeezing those muscles for a moment and then exhaling into the earth, okay? So let's squeeze those muscles together right now. Everybody just give it a big squeeze. Give it a squeeze there. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Roll your eyes up. Let's take a breath from above your head, from that funnel, right down through the channel, behind your eyes, into your throat, into your heart, all the way to the belly. Now squeeze those Mula Bandha muscles and let it feel good. And exhale right down into the earth. Now inhale up from the earth, right up through this Mula Bandha, right up through the squeezed muscles. Just keep them squeezed. Breathe into the belly. Now squeeze the blades again. Roll your eyes up. Now we're going to exhale from the belly, through the heart, through the throat, right behind the eyes and out the top of your head. That's called a central channel breath. It's activating the Sushumna, which is the river of life, which is the continuum that quantum science is talking about. Let's inhale from overhead. Since the ancient times, we've been trying to remember this deep truth right into the belly, all the way to the belly. Breathe into the belly. And then exhale, pull the navel back to the spine and exhale into the earth. Now, there are two more things that I want to share with you, but that is a central channel breath. So I'm hoping that you do that the rest of the weekend while you're anchoring, when you're learning, when you're listening to something that is turning you on. Find these anchor points and do some central channel breathing, because you'll absorb that into the whole body system, and the cellular memory picks up on that vibrational frequency, not just in your mind, but in your mind body. Not just in the conscious, but in the superconscious and the subconscious all together. And that's what we're here to do, is to bring all of that together. Now, one more thing that you can do to empower yourselves no matter what. I want you to imagine that someone who pushes your buttons is standing in the doorway of the room that you're in right now. And notice how they're there, and your energy just flies over there to them. So all the work that we've just done just went out the door, okay? It just went over to them. You just gave it away, all right? So now let's just politely pull it back. Just gather it back. That's all you have to do, is just intentionally pull it back onto you. It's called coming on to subject. Instead of subject, instead of object, you stay on subject. And it will empower what you're doing with this central channel breathing tremendously. It will change you. And it will change you into who you're meant to be, the one who reinvents itself all the time. Because when you know who you are, you don't have to defend who you think you need to be in any situation. Okay? So here we are. Instead of the person in the doorway getting all of your energy, let's just bring it back home. Just basically saying, back on me. This is mine. On self, on subject. And now throw it back onto them for a moment so you can feel the difference. Giving all your power away. And let's pull it right back here. Pull it back home. Bring it back home to you. Now squeeze those mula bandha muscles. Squeeze those shoulder blade muscles. Roll your eyes up. Let's take a deep breath in from overhead, right down from behind the eyes to the throat, to the heart, into the belly. Squeeze those mula bandha muscles. Exhale into the earth. Inhale up from the earth, right back into the belly. And exhale right up and out the top of your head. So what we're doing is starting a conversation about how in the world to anchor myself in the truth of who I am, and to allow myself to be ready for reinvention no matter what. And by doing so, all of the works that we do, they change because we're doing them from a different version of who we are. The central channel anchored in the body, allowing for this continuum to pour through you without distortion. There are many things that we can also do to recognize that when we have a knot in our stomach or a lump in our throat or whatever the case may be, if we just hug it back and breathe it in this central channel, then we're building circuits that we used to try to avoid in that wobbling, distorted version of who we are. You're here for more than that. You're here to thrive. You're here to constantly be reinventing yourself. It's actually your natural state. It isn't something that you should be afraid to step into. It's something that you should learn to allow, and we are learning to allow reinvention to be happening constantly and continuously without exception, because that is the truth of who we are. We are here as the gods and the goddesses that we have always read about. We are here as the divine, a multiple dimensional being that is here as the creator in this life, that we are here living. And so to reinvent yourself is intended to be. And so it is ours to play with forever. So blessings to you all. I'm out of time. I got to go back to my thing. You guys have even more fabulous stuff happening today. I want to thank you all again for allowing me to be in your space for a little bit today. And perhaps we will meet again where we can go even deeper with a little bit more time. So blessings to you all. It's been wonderful. Thank you again.